Well, my name is Damon Pidhajecky. One of the few times you'll hear my last name pronounced.
I didn't even try.
Yeah, I've been doing this AR, VR, XR, whatever, since 2014. Show a little video, some stuff I'm working on while talking. I mean, yeah, put stuff on most major platforms, PlayStation VR, like Joshua mentioned, Oculus Rift, on the Vive, on Cardboard, on iPhone, so all over the place in that domain. And when I first started getting into doing this stuff, you know, I brought my previous experiences as an artist using more traditional 3D art tools, like for me that would be Maya, ZBrush, things like that, Photoshop. And as amazing it is in VR, you know, I started to get this kind of disconnect of, okay, I'm in this great VR 3D world, I'm walking around, it's amazing, but then I have to take off this headset to do my art. So it's like, why can't I do my art in VR? So luckily, some companies started coming out with some really awesome art applications to do that. And so that is primarily what I'll be talking about today. Google Blocks, Google TiltBrush, and Medium. So the first one up, Google Blocks. If you've used more traditional 3D art programs, it's kind of analogous to Maya, 3D Studio Max, Blender. We are going to be doing this like kind of box modeling. You're controlling your the edges, the vertices, and the faces, and you start with a primitive shape. And right off the bat, one of the cool things about doing any of this art stuff in VR is that you get to walk around and look at your art in 3D space as opposed to the static monitor. You have to like always manually adjust your camera or set up a ton of views and you can't see anything because they're all too small. In VR, you can move around. That's one of the most powerful aspects. Another difference between more traditional 3D art tools and doing, say, Google Blocks here is that there is a steep learning curve, I would say, to something like Maya. I've been doing it for 15 years, and I still am maybe 20, 30% of the way there, knowing all aspects of it. So I was looking up to speak with the Google engineering team because I wanted to like know what their philosophy was when they're developing Google Blocks, and theirs was all about simplicity. Let's have a simple set of tools, and how can we naturally make it intuitive, you know, to do these things. So first thing you're going to do when you go into Google Blocks is you're going to start with a primitive shape. You got a cone, you have a sphere, cube, cylinder, and a donut if you're into donuts. From there, you get to modify and shape your vertices, edges, and bases, kind of start to really refine your object. And there's even some more ways to reshape with extruding. So you can start pulling out like a nose or ears and arms, legs, and all that, and start to get some pretty intricate shapes. And once you've done all that, you save it. It's going to save locally, but it's also going to save up into the cloud, and people can share their stuff. And what's really fun in Google Blocks is you can bring in other artists' artwork and kind of make that your starting point, especially when you're getting started doing this stuff. You know, you don't have all the modeling experience. It's kind of good to see what other artists have done. You can look at all in 3D, and they kind of have a cool feature where if you kind of like rip on that artwork, you can then upload that yourself, and when you look at it online, there'll be this chain of like remixes, this author to this author to this author, and so that's a lot of fun. You can also bring in all different types of objects and kind of play like a dollhouse and create your own sets and create your own worlds. So this right here is the monster kit, something I made for Google. It's essentially a kit of like eyes and fangs and claws and arms, basically letting you, like Mr. Potato Head style, create your own monsters. So it's a lot of fun, and that's you can easily search monster kit within Google Blocks and make your own monsters. So as I mentioned, it saves locally, also goes up to the cloud, and to check it out online, you go to this site, poly.google.com. And that's kind of like an umbrella for their like online repositories, several of their VR technologies. That's Google Blocks, that's TiltBrush, which I'll talk about in a second. They also have a new thing called Tours. So it's a great way to find like some art resources. And most importantly, when you're online, you can download your OBJs and your FBX files, and that allows you to bring it into your projects. You can be bringing it to game engines like Unity, Unreal, and you can also bring it to your other 3D programs if you want to refine them in your more traditional 3D programs. There's a screenshot importing into Unity. And as I mentioned, the Google Poly is like this umbrella of several technologies, and in particular, TiltBrush and blocks get along very well. You can import your blocks, you can load them in while you're in VR and put them into your TiltBrush scenes and do your TiltBrush stuff in there. So nice segue to TiltBrush. I would say, as far as like what's analogous to more traditional art programs, I don't think there is one. But what TiltBrush is you are painting in 3D. And after this talk, I have demos if you want to check TiltBrush out. And it's pretty wild. It's not just your traditional, just looking like paint. There you can paint with light, which looks amazing. Electricity, rainbows, sparkles. It's a pretty wild 3D experience. And they're always updating these apps. So last month they introduced a new type of brush called the whole brush, and that allows you to create these 3D volumes. I was reading an article, Google engineer, trying to describe it, and they were just saying it was essentially like putting like gift wrap, like you're blending the gift wrap over an object. It's a little trickier to describe than to just use, but it's pretty intuitive. And this scene here, made by this artist named Nam, is all made up of that whole brush. And cliche saying, the only limitation is your imagination. You can create some really huge scenes. If you're able to look at this scene, which is called Deadlight Strip, if you go in it, it goes on, like I could walk all the way across the room and it would still keep going like some huge Blade Runner scene. It's one of the most amazing pieces I've seen in TiltBrush. So next up is Medium. And the reason I'm covering these three particular VR art tools is they kind of have, they're in their own domain. Google Blocks is more like a little poly artwork, and TiltBrush is more painting. Medium is more, it's like you're building clay. If you use ZBrush, it's very similar to ZBrush, but in VR. And you can make some crazy creatures like there. So yeah, you're sculpting in high res, and like I said, it's like you're building in clay. But there's a big difference I noticed in how it feels. If you work with clay in real life, there's a lot of tactile feedback. And since there is no actual clay existing in VR as far as the physical presence, it almost feels more like foam. And I kind of find it funny that it seems like Medium embraces this, because when you're like creating this clay, it makes like a shaving cream sound. Like a lot of fun. One of my favorite features of Medium is they have an amazing reference library. They call them reference meshes, all types of animals, skeletons, and stuff. And if you're just trying to study anatomy, I've been trying to study anatomy forever from like more traditional, like just books and stuff, and it's always blind, you can't see around the model. So you can pull in the anatomy and like look in all directions, really get a feel for it. And a really powerful technique you're kind of seeing here is you can say get a skull and then start to reshape it a little bit, and then you can layer on your clay on top of that, have like a really anatomically strong character. So very fun to mess around with that. And the word of note on Medium, so you can export and import similar to all the other programs I mentioned earlier. Google Medium is going to be high resolution, similar to ZBrush. And so you have to be aware of when you're bringing these into, like, say, an augmented reality project or something. you need to be cognizant of how much that's going to affect performance. There are some options for when you're exporting, like with density. What I recommend is bringing into another program. There's several that will do what's called retopology. So that's going to be Topogun's a popular one, Maya does it, I think Cinema 4D, there's a lot that are supporting this, and that lets you see, like on the right there, you can reduce your polys and really define it and make it so you can rig and animate your characters and stuff. But you still can keep your high-res information and apply that to the texture, and that's doing this whole like substance painter. You can define the material, so you can have like the high definition look but have the low poly performance. So that's the applications. Now to get some tips and tricks, things that are really going to make your artwork pop. And so this whole AR, VR, XR, whateverness, it is our reality. We want to make that reality strong. How can we, we want this art to stick and feel real in the world. And that doesn't necessarily mean realism, but you can still make it feel real through various techniques. So one technique that's been going on for a millennia is silhouette readability. What's this object? Can you see this outline, and can your brain recognize it? So in this case, we have a boat. Now there's some other considerations for VR. We have stereoscopic vision, and that allows us, we can take advantage of that. So on the left side here, we have the spheres. Now if you take the silhouette of the spheres, essentially it's a circle. Each eye sees a circle, and when they converge, it's still a circle. So I'd say that is maybe a weaker silhouette to have for VR, whereas if it's a little more blocky, and I'm doing like the opposite in an abstract sense with a cube, if you notice on the cube, you see like different planes, different angles, and when they converge, you have a little bit more density of information there. And so think of that. I would say like very round shapes you're not getting the full value of that dimensionality in the brain, recognizing that. But if you are going to do a render object, you can do texturing. Texturing, it'll look different from different angles. So in the case of this bun here, the seeds, they're going to register a little different. And there's details like in the lettuce and stuff that will look different from different angles. So like textures plus blockiness, that's going to be very powerful. Though I will give a warning with the texturing, you don't want to get too high resolution because you can, especially in VR, get artifacts and stuff. So be careful. You need to find like a balance of texture that's readable, simple enough to give that information to the brain, but not like overloading it or causing rendering artifacts. Next thing I want to talk about is shadowing. Shadowing is very important, especially in AR, because we want to match the physical space here that we're in. So in computer graphics, if you're familiar with it, there's this thing called ambient occlusion. And what that is so computer graphics, lighting, the shadows can get very harsh. To compensate for that, there is this thing called ambient light. It's essentially going to evenly light and fill in that darkness, except it can lead to flatness. So then you want to define, okay, well, I want to include that ambient lighting and create some shadows. So that's why on the right, that's going to pop a lot more because you see all those shadows in the crevices and such. And there's a couple of techniques for that. A popular one that's real easy to apply, like in Unity Engine in particular, is a post-processing effect. It's just going to do a generic quick calculation and give you some of that. This rendering here was done in Sketchpad, which is a browser renderer, so it's pretty amazing. You can actually pull that off on the browser. And if you want to get more detailed and really have fine control of where your ambient occlusion is, then you want to bring it into a program like Substance Painter. And then, so shadows, that was the other thing I want to talk about. They could be a little darker here, or a little too light. So you don't, in AR, you need to have a shadow, otherwise it's going to be floating there. It'll probably look cool. People haven't seen much AR, like, oh wow, it's AR, I'm so impressed. If you throw a shadow under it, it'll really start to stick and make it feel a part of that world. We don't have like the technology currently to really calculate where lights are and to get realistic shadows just on the fly. So there are a few techniques for that. If you have a controlled situation, say like you have a conference, you have like some booth and you're doing some AR thing, and you know exactly where your lights are, in that case, you can probably get away with doing it runtime to some extent. In this case, I'm using what's called a shadow blob. All it is a quad with just basically just a quad plane, and I just do a gradient shadow in there. And even though it's very generic, it's still going to be, it's still going to add a lot compared to no shadow at all. So that's my presentation. Contact information there if you have questions after this talk. I don't know if we have time for questions now.
We do, yeah.
We do.
Some questions? I'll start.
You mentioned that.
Give it a second. You want to push it one more time? Just push the button. There you go.
There we go. Can you hear me? You mentioned retopologizing high poly models, sort of down-resing them.
Mm-hmm.
How feasible is it to do the opposite?
To go higher res?
Yeah, taking low poly models and trying to find like sort of algorithmic ways to smooth out some of those blocky.
Right, usually people are trying to go that direction. I know in more traditional programs like Maya, they have where you can have like add smoothing to it, so that's one way, but you're definitely not gonna get that definition. Yeah, I'm not sure, maybe there is like some way that you can generate alpha texture data that'll actually create geometry, but yeah, if he wants to go higher level, yeah, there's probably a way ahead.
Another question? Great.
Yeah, so this is a really cool overview of the tools here. I'm just curious, do you feel like the VR creative art tools are at the point where you'd actually sit down and use them for a professional project, or is it more dabbling and kind of waiting for them to get to the point of maturity, like a Maya, ZBrush, etc.?
Right. Right now it's split a little bit. I would say I'm using Medium a lot more because if anybody's using ZBrush, it's like, we know ZBrush, some people are listening, but it is like one of the worst UIs ever. And I just love being able to see the detail. So Medium, I actually am using more and more for higher res models. Blocks, I've used a lot for the low poly stuff too. So yeah, blocks and Medium are, to me, practical use right now. For TiltBrush, I'd say it's like more, I haven't seen it used too much, like in games, though there was a game jam for Pig Squad last month, and somebody made all their levels in TiltBrush. That's kind of cool to see.
Yeah, so most of the tools are like for single person use. Do you see any like collaborative tools coming out, or do you find those useful at all?
Somebody named Dave back here, all about collaborative tools for VR. For these art specific ones, I haven't seen it, but that technology is being built up. Check out the lot.
Any more questions? All right, one more round of applause for Dan.